Welcome to my demonstration of Sage Accounts Production. My name's Liz and it's my pleasure to be taking you through Sage's Accounts Production software, which is designed for accountants in practice, and more specifically those accountants that manage limited companies, partnerships and sole trader clients. So as you can see on the screen, the welcome window will pop up initially when you start up the software, and it just mentions a wee bit about the compliance in terms of producing iXBRL accounts, which are now required to be attached onto any corporation tax submission for any limited company when you're submitting the corporation tax return to HMRC electronically, which can be done through the Sage Corporation Tax module. So today's demonstration will primarily look at the limited company functionality within the software, but in the client list itself you'll notice that when you get the software initially that it has a company, a partnership and a sole trader master format. So any clients that you add, so when you come and set up a new client and add a data set, you'll give it a client code, a name and a year end, but you'll also select what type of client it is you're setting up. And then the settings to do with that type of business will then be embedded within your client's data set. So I'm just going to open up one of the clients on the list, and what will happen over time is that you will expand down your clients and all of the historical years will also be in there for you to access. So looking at the menu down the left hand side, we're currently within the accounts module down here, and you can see within there that you have a few different options, things that you would expect to see in a normal accounts production package. But this package is really easy to use because there's only two main areas that you need to enter information, them being the journals area and the accounts database. And then the effect of what you put into those two areas of the software will be produced via the accounts pages in a final set of what can be printed accounts or PDF accounts, and also in the iXBRL file, which is created via an additional module called Sage Assisted Tagging, which gets launched automatically from within this software and is included in your Sage Accounts Production license. So to get information into the journals area, if we click onto the journals button, you'll see the history of any journals that have already been processed for the current year, which you'll be pleased to know you can go back and edit if required. You do have an edit button down the bottom, so you can amend anything that's in there. But you'll also be delighted to know that you don't actually have to do journals manually. If you did want to do them manually, you can use the multiple, double accruals or prepayment depending on the type of journal you're posting, and then you simply click on the nominal code button and you can type. If you're just getting to know the software, you don't have to remember the codes. You can type the description and it will come up with your different options. If you want to post it to the admin group of telephone expenses, then you just highlight that and you'll post away all the way down till your journal balances, hopefully at the bottom. Now the other way to get information into the journals is by importing financial information. So if you have your client's information on Sage 50 accounts, then you'll be pleased to know that from the Tools menu you do have the ability to import from Sage 50 or Instant Accounts. So you do need to have the information open on your system. So if you've got the Client Manager variant of Sage 50, make sure that your clients are stored in there, and then you'll be able to do the full transaction import. So this option allows you to bring over all of the detailed transactions that make up the final balances. So you can see all of that detail behind your final accounts. So you simply select the client that you want to import and it will pop up and ask you what the username and password is for your Sage 50 data. Then you click on to Next. You say whether you want to bring the information into an existing data set or whether you want to set up a brand new client. If you want to bring over comparative balances, you can do that as well. And if you're setting up a new client, it will obviously then have to for you to let it know what type of client it is. Choose the most up-to-date master on your list, and at that point it will check the nominal accounts. So if your client has set up any new nominal codes which Sage Accounts Production wouldn't know where to map them to, then it will ask you to map them manually. Click on to Next when you're happy with that. I'm just going to change this slightly because I know I'll have another one of the same name. So as I mentioned, we've got a few accounts in here where it doesn't know where to map them to. So you can use your mappings list. You can print it off if you want. So you can work through those few accounts, or simply clicking on the mapping button, you can then go and map those. So unfortunately the Sage 50 code is different from the Accounts Production codes, but for the majority of them, Accounts Production does know where to put the Sage 50 codes to. But you can come down here and tailor your mappings if required. If we want to make sure we know where to put the dollar account, then we can simply edit and we can type in the account. So I know that 771, for example, is my normal bank account, so I can go down and edit. So for example, if I type in 771 in here, you'll see the different accounts. I can add accounts at this point as well if required, so if I do want to set up separate accounts for each of the different currency accounts, then I can do that as well. So I'm just going to be quite lazy and map everything to here, but obviously when you do it, you'll be doing it properly. This is a sales code, so we'll be putting our 4,000 to something near the 001 level, so maybe sales type 3 for example, and bank interest received. Again, we can edit, and in here we can start typing bank interest and we can select received. We know that all of our accounts have now been mapped, so we close out of this window and it will check that it's happy with the mapping status before it allows you to proceed on to importing that information. Now, as I said before, this information will end up in the journals area, so if you do need to edit it, you can go back and edit it within the journals area. You don't have to come and do the import again. Leave it text that you want to automatically add this new data set to the client list without prompting, and then click on to the Finish button. So even with hundreds of transactions in there, we are able to import the details. It just popped up with a fixed asset note in there just about the references that I had against my fixed assets in Accounts Production. Just asking me about linking over to Practice Solution. So we do have a program which manages all of your practice information together, Sage Practice Solution. So it's just asking me if I wanted to link it in there as well. So in here we have the client open at the top of the page. You can see the information about it in there. And if we go into our journals button, you'll see all of the detail that we have imported come over as some pretty big journals, which I said you can go back and edit if required. But the areas you'll probably be interested in having a look at are things like your simple trial balance, which is a handy window because you can then double click on any of those items. So sales type 3 for example, and you can see the detail of the items that have come over from Sage 50 accounts in this case. If you had imported comparatives, you could click onto the show comparatives down the bottom so you can compare it with last year. And I have it ticked to suppress zeros. I can untick that and you'll get the view including all of the zeros in there as well. We also have a nice formatted trial balance, so this will be the layout, which will be what your accounts will be based on. So we've got the breakdown between sales, cost of sales to give us our gross profit, distribution, admin expenses, and then on to the next page where we see our profit before and after taxation. Then moving on to the balance sheet, we get the split out of all of our different nominal codes and what's happened in the year. And then again at the end there. Now I mentioned before that there's really only two areas that you need to input information into the software. The journals area, which we've already done as an import, and the other area is the accounts database, which we'll just come on and have a look at in a moment. We also have the accounts pages. So I'm just going to show you this briefly just so you can see a look at what the accounts would look like without having done any work whatsoever. So all we've done is imported in the information from Sage 50. So we've not applied any specific information about the company from a disclosure point of view, but already we're starting to build up a set of accounts with a P&L in the layout that you would expect for a limited company. The balance sheet, now it's got a great validation checker in it, so it knows in here from last year. We have obviously a zero balance on our closing stock, but we do have an opening balance on our stock for this year, so it's flagging that up. So if I just click on to next, I'll just take you through just quickly what that would look like with no work done at all, and then you also have your detailed P&L at the back as well. So now we'll go on and we'll have a look at another client. So I'll just jump back into this one. And I'll show you one of the other ways that you can get information into the software. So you'll be pleased to know for those clients that don't use Sage, so they maybe produce their accounts in Excel or some other program that can be exported into a CSV format, then you are able to also import that information into the accounts production software. It just has to be mapped to the relevant nominal code before you do the import. So you would choose the import nominals from a CSV file, and then you would browse to the relevant file at that point. So before we do that, I do have one I have prepared earlier in good old Blue Peter style. So at the bottom of the screen, here's an Excel which I have saved as a CSV file, which you can see up the top there. And the first column being the nominal code, the second just being your description, and the third being the balances against each of those accounts. So to import that file in, you simply browse to the file. Ensure you're happy with the row it's going to start importing from. You will be pleased to know that you can also import comparative balances, which you would just have as additional columns within your spreadsheet. And you choose at the bottom if your balances appear in a single column as positive and negative numbers for the debits and credit balances. And then you need to select the columns in the file that correspond to the fields in accounts production. So the code we know is in column 1, the description in column 2, and the balance in column 3. And you've got up to 5 comparative years that can also be imported at this stage. You click on to next, and then you will be able to load, depending on what you're bringing it in from. There are different mapping files in there so that you can then match it. If you don't have one you can use, then you simply go through and you set it up once, and then that mapping table will be there forevermore. Click on to import, and away you go. I'm not going to import because I don't want to actually overwrite this data in here. So we have our journals, and as I mentioned before, we're going to come on and have a look now at the accounts database area. So the accounts database area is where all of the switches are selected so that you can be happy with the disclosure that's in the accounts, and also the text that goes along with that disclosure. And the way that you use the database area, the accounts database, is by working your way down this list. So you would choose the first option, being reporting options, and then you would work your way along through the tabs left to right, and then the same all the way down. I'm not going to go through the database in its entirety, but the software is intelligent enough that it will take some options for you depending on the size of the balances within the trial balance at this stage. You can tick the bottom left hand box to show non-relevant database lines if you want to see what has been suppressed, if you think there's anything in there that would be required to be reported for this client. Then you would be able to manually select that to be able to be printed. So just to give you an example, we have the company status in here. We have the accounts options. So things such as, do you want final accounts? Do you want to adopt the frizzy? All of that's in there. And the dates as well, that the accountant's report and the balance sheet and director's report have been signed off. Your iXBRL settings, you would only really have to come in here if there was something a bit unusual about the client. So if they're in liquidation, for example, then there's some disclosure that you would have to select in there as well. Your accounting policies and your notes tab is simply if you want to force something to either always print or to be suppressed as part of your iXBRL accounts. Your client information. So if you have imported from Sage 50, some of this information will come over if it is in Sage 50 accounts company. Company registration information. And just remember that you only have to set things like this up once in the first year, and then it will just roll forward year on year after that. And then you're obviously just making changes as required over time. You'll have a separate tab for each director, so you input their information along with the number of shares that they hold at the bottom. And at the end you have your director's report information, including the principal activity of the company during the year. And so on, things like your accounting policies, the text for them would be amended within here, and your depreciation policies as well. So that just means that again you're inputting that text on here. So it means that you change it in here and not on the face of the accounts, so that when it comes to next year, that will all be embedded within your accounts automatically. To save those changes, you simply close out of the database. And when you're happy that everything has been completed, then you would access your accounts pages. To actually preview the accounts themselves, you come down to the selection button at the bottom middle of your pages window, and it opens up your print selection window. And in there you'll see the different styles of accounts that can be produced. So you have members, including combined trading, including separate trading, and you can also produce abbreviated accounts or dormant accounts from this software as well. And you'll notice down the bottom we have our iXBRL accounts. So at the moment this iXBRL button is greyed out. However, if we were to click on any of those iXBRL options at the bottom, this button will then be enabled for you to produce the relevant file. Something to note is if you are producing combined trading accounts, for example, at the top half, so those include the detailed P&L, then you do need to create the exact replica of those accounts in an iXBRL format. So you need to make sure you select the same one, and that's what forms part of your CT600 submission. So I'll show you what those accounts look like on the screen. So if we come in and click onto the print button, it will default to preview those accounts on the screen. You'll be pleased to see the ability to export them as a file, either as a Word file or as a PDF to your chosen location, and you can select if you want it to be automatically opened once it's exported. Or you can choose to email it as a file. We'll preview it first of all on the screen, and you'll see what these accounts would look like with the registered number, the director's information, accountant's information in there, and then we have our contents page, including our director's report. There's our profit and loss account. This has a comparative year in it as well, and our balance sheet, with all of the notes automatically cross-referenced for you to the notes to the financial statements. And any amendments you need to make to the disclosure would be done within the accountant's database. And then we go on to the detailed P&L, which does not form part of your statutory accounts, which gives you a nice breakdown of the detail behind your standard P&L, which is at the end. To produce the iXBRL file when you're happy with your final accounts, you select the relevant one, and it will go through validation checks at that point. If there's anything that needs additional information, it will have a red cross against it in here, just to make sure that you will be submitting HMRC compliant accounts. Confirm that you're happy with the dates. You can put in the prior year period at this point. Click on to next, and then you click onto the generate button. So the software now works through the balances that are embedded within your accounts, and it will populate them into the Sage Assisted Tagging module. It will open up the module automatically and will open up the relevant set of accounts in there. And it will automatically tag as much as it possibly can for you. And once it's done that, you may find a few areas that you may need to make some selections. The software just needs a bit of guidance from you in terms of what exactly that element of the account relates to. So we're now within Sage Assisted Tagging. And you'll notice straight away that we have the set of accounts in front of us in a slightly different layout to you've seen before, but the same information contained in there. And I'm sure you'll guess that any items that are highlighted in green are those that are already tagged. If you want to see how many items still need some attention, then if you come up to the top right hand corner, you'll see that 203 tags have been already automatically added to this iXBRL file, with only 11 items left to check manually. But it's a nice simple process to do so. All we do is work our way through these 6 stages, and it is a nice flowing workflow. So if we click on to continue, it will then pop up with, in this case, there's one of 10 tags within the pick tags area where we just need a bit of user intervention. So the cash at bank and in hand balance, what does that relate to? So we know it is cash at bank and in hand for this year and last year. What about the balance of 110? Well, it is purely just deferred tax. There's no foreign deferred tax in that value. And then our provision for liabilities in terms of the deferred tax note. So what does it relate to again? So is it additional amounts provided, unwinding, charged, increase? So you just say exactly what that relates to and you confirm. Your share capital, allotted, called up and paid, and our equity shares. If there's any details that need picking, they'll be on at stage 4. And then you've got the ability to assign tags. So it is an area that's flagged up that may need additional tags, but because it's free-form text, then it's not able to be automatically tagged. So look at the highlighted area, see if there are any of the tags below that apply, and if so, you simply just select the text, so like that for example, and then you click on the relevant tag down here. Now I don't think any of them apply, but don't hold me to that, but you can simply continue on without applying a tag if that is applicable. So we finished our tagging. The file has automatically been saved to your client folder, but I would probably advise you to just save it to another location, which is the normal place that you would save your client files to. You'll notice that you also have the ability to watch a short video within the software, so if you need a reminder while you're using it, then please do make use of those videos, and you have more instructions that you can refer to there as well. We've been using Sage Assisted Tagging, which also has the ability to access the advanced area. So if you do want to apply a tag manually to a certain area within the accounts, then you have access to every single tag within here, and then you would just choose the relevant one, highlight the area and tag that area yourself. To save it, all you need to do is close out. Just before we close out, I just want to highlight the fact that we have embedded a tag report within Sage Assisted Tagging. Now there's no legislative requirement for a tag report, but just for your own peace of mind, you'll be able to see each of the different tags that have been applied to your set of accounts and the value against them. And that's how simple it is to produce a tagged set of limited company accounts within Sage Accounts Production. Thanks for watching, and I hope to speak to you again soon.